So I was researching a video about war, a very stupid war at that, a war that started because someone stole a bucket. I'm not joking. That's what happened. We'll get to that later. And I'm sitting there writing the script and I need to say the name of an Italian city. Bologna. And I stopped because I didn't know if I was saying it right. As an American, a US American, I would say baloney. But I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this city is pronounced baloney like the lunch meat. So I do what any person in this modern era would do. I Googled it. No, I don't use ChatGPT. I Googled it and I said, hey Google, how do you pronounce this word? And at first it said baloney. That's not right. That can't be right. So I kept going. It said this Italian city, Bologna. Guess what it gave me? Bologna. Bologna.
Bologna, Bologna, Bologna.
It's 3 syllables. Italian rhymes with lasagna. And Google tells me the lunch meat is named after the city. So bologna sausage comes from Bologna in Italy, and we just somehow flattened the pronunciation of all of it when it came to America. And I think, wait, why did we change it? Why do we say it different than the Italians do? I don't just mean accent. I mean full-fledged. We don't say Bologna. We say bologna. Way. So I begin to do more research. And as I am a person who loves to go down a rabbit hole. I love to deep dive. And one click became one more link and then another. And then 3 hours later, I was sitting there and the bucket war script was untouched. And I have 17 tabs open on the history of the English language. You're welcome. I'm not apologizing for it. And what I found is unhinged. And I feel like you need to know because the reason we say baloney instead of Bologna is the same reason English spelling makes no sense, because it doesn't, and you can't tell me that it does. English spelling makes no sense. I knew that before making this video, but whatever. The same reason we have 2 words for everything, the same reason we can't read a text written in our own language from 1,000 years ago, because English is not one language with a long history. It's several languages that crashed into each other, merged badly, got invaded several times, multiple times by the way, had one man make up 1,700 words, and then we froze the spelling of it at a very wrong time in history. I'm going to stick to my script. We froze the spelling of English exactly at the wrong moment. We did. It's not a language. It's most definitely a crime scene. Let's get into it. Upon the screen before you is an English sentence. I'm going to give you a minute to look at it. Can you read that? That is the English language. It's the English language. And that was written about 1,000 years ago. You speak English. You cannot read the sentence. That's how much this language has changed. And just in case you don't know, that sentence is the opening of Beowulf. If you didn't read that in high school, I read that in high school. And by the time we were reading it, side note, when I read Beowulf in high school, all of a sudden the movie came out. I did not care for the movie, but I digress. We're going to keep going. That sentence was the opening of Beowulf. And that is the oldest surviving piece of English literature, and it's basically a foreign language. It's a foreign language, and that is because the people who brought English to Britain were Germanic tribes. A lot of things are German that we do traditionally, and I'm going to end that sentence right there. The Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, who invaded around 450 AD, their language was closer to German than anything you'd recognize today. The word English, fun fact, just in case you didn't know, because I didn't, the word English literally comes from Angles, English. We're talking about pronunciation right now. Now you're saying we got English and he came English. Stay with me. We're just going to keep going. So from the beginning, English was already built on an invasion. That doesn't speak a lot of things. I don't know what does. Let's go to chapter 2 now. Remember I said there are a lot of invasions? Guess who invaded next? Who invaded next? The Vikings, obviously. This is the English history. Stay with me. Now English is being invaded by the Vikings. Like I said, this is English history. Someone is always invading. We're seeing a theme. Anyway, the Vikings settled in North England and their Old Norse mixed with Old English for about 200 years. And as I was reading some of that, I was like, So there, like I said, and we still use words every single day from that invasion, when I say around 450. So here are the words we use from when the Vikings invaded from way back then. Sky, egg, leg, get, give, take, want, call, die, skin, skull, they, them, there. Those are all Viking words you use. You speak a little bit of Nordic, just in case you didn't know. You're so welcome, you U.S. citizen. Those pronunciations, they, them, there, replace the Old English versions entirely. So, like I said, you are using Viking grammar today. Are you pronouncing it right? That's a whole nother story entirely. But you are using it. The word window is this word. I'm gonna attempt it because right now we're talking about pronunciation and I'm not gonna puck out. This word, I'm gonna spell it first. Vindauga. Vinduga? Vindauga. I don't like how I said that. I don't know. Window is basically Old Norse. So you get wind eye. You're looking through, it's like you're looking through the Vikings wind eye, but we got window. Look it up. Don't, if I give you everything, we'll be here forever. The word husband comes from Old Norse. We also have angry, ugly, and weak. All Viking contributions. The Vikings didn't just invade England, they moved in and rewired the vocabulary. Isn't that fun? And by the way, that word is pronounced Vindaka. I was way off. Oh, we're in chapter 3, the Norman Conquest. And if you don't know who Norman is, I'm going to tell you. Around 1066, William the Conqueror. If you look up William the Conqueror, he has a great side story of being called William the Bastard because there's a lot of people who did not really care for him because he was the illegitimate child of his father. That is something fun to read. Whether you're a historian, maybe you just like people being petty. He got the name William the Conqueror, but he most definitely is still William the Bastard. I'm gonna move on. Oh, that was funny. Anyway, Norman the Conqueror invades from Normandy, France. Here's where things get beyond crazy, even crazier. He wins the Battle of Hastings and he becomes King of England. There's a movie about that somewhere. I don't freaking know. So he and his entire court speaks French and only French. You just invaded a bunch of people who don't speak your language. Now they've taken over. They don't speak no English. None whatsoever. I mean, why would they? They won the freaking war. So overnight, and I really mean overnight, you go to sleep, sundown, sun up. Overnight, French became the language of power, of court, of law, of everything that mattered. You won the war, we take over. What are you saying? I don't know. I speak French, not whatever you're speaking. And English becomes the language of the peasants. And that one might explain why English has two words for almost everything. It does explain. It explains why English has two words for almost everything. Peasants raised animals. The Norman lords ate them. The peasants called it a cow. Norman and his people called it what? You know, beef. The peasants, you know, they raised the pigs. It was pork, sheep, mutton, pig, poultry, calf, veal, beef, venison. Those are all the second ones, you know, French words where people may say now, you know, beef and poultry and veal, venison, and mutton are like the proper names for it when it's in food eating form. It's still a pig. Now I sound a little classy. I'm going to keep going. Every single one. The English word is for a living animal. The French word is for what ends up on your plate. It's just what ends up on your plate because poor people raised them and the rich people ate them. And both words survive. So if you've ever been wondering, hey, beef is just the word for cow in French. At least to me, that's what it is. Because you're telling me, oh, you raised a cow. Oh, it's beef. And you're real petty for doing that because you already don't speak my language. One, you don't speak my language. And then I'm telling you, oh, it's cow. You're just like, beef. Now, it does not stop at food. Remember, that's why we're here. It does not stop at food. That's why we have the word ask and inquire. We have help and we have the word aid. We have begin and commence. We have buy and we have purchase. We have freedom and we have liberty. People who say, give me freedom and give me liberty. They're the same thing. Freedom and liberty. The short, punchy word is almost always Old English. Ask, help, aid. I feel like aid is more, but whatever. Help me, not aid me, but we still use aid in a different way than we use help. The short, punchy word is almost always Old English, a peasant language. The longer, fancier word is almost always French. 17 tabs I had open. You're welcome. That is the language of power. Yeah. French was the language, but anyway, at that time. So you use this class divide every single day. You've been speaking a class system this whole time and nobody told you. So you're saying who speaks what class divide? I'm not going to go all the way historically into it, but because I'm here now, we're going to start right here at 2026. I most definitely speak the peasant language. Do I know the classier French version? Yes, I do. Use some of those words some of those times. You remember when Good Burger, he was like, yeah, I know some of these words. I know some of those words. Okay, so we're gonna get into Shakespeare. And this part, holy crap, this man should have been, let's get into Shakespeare. So, after 300 years of French and English crashing into each other, they started merging into something new. They didn't like, we're just gonna learn French, we're not gonna learn English. No, it started to merge into its own thing. So, how many languages, if you've been keeping up with me, have we basically English has started from? They want to start from the beginning. Started Germanic, one straight up, the Angles, the Saxons, Jutes, all those peoples. One German, two were at Nords, the Vikings, three the French, and now those three languages are merging into something new. So basically now it's becoming its own thing. Anyway, after 300 years, like I said, the French and English crashing into each other, they started merging into something new. And that is called Middle English. Still peasant. You say we're going to move up a class. It's called Middle English. But if you don't know, historically, peasants just became middle class people. It's called Middle English. Anyway, it came Chaucer's language. You can almost read it, not quite, but you can get a feel for it. You can feel it's getting closer to what we speak now. So then this is where we get into the 1500s and Shakespeare. Shakespeare, you know that guy you had to read? I don't know if they read about it now. I don't think my son does in high school. I don't even think my son knows who Shakespeare is. That's probably more likely my fault. But if you grew up, earlier, you know who Shakespeare is. That guy, to be, not to be. The guy wrote all those plays. Somebody was always getting poisoned in one of those. Romeo and Juliet is not a romantic story. Did you know that happened in a 3-day weekend? Why wasn't anybody watching these children? Juliet should have stayed her butt in the house. Anyway, you don't know it, go read it, go look at it. There's a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in it. If you have not watched it, best of luck to you. Anyway, Shakespeare is credited with first using or inventing over 1,700 words. This was the 1500s. Shakespeare. It sounds quite Shakespeare. And like I said, I want to be precise here because I had to fact check this and I actually had to go far. Everything I used to research, I'm going to leave down below so you can look into it because I wanted to be very precise about this because he's accredited for more, but there are some historians who be like, we're gonna give it this. So I'm gonna stick to 1,700 words on my own. 1,700 words, and he didn't always create them from nothing. Sometimes he combined existing words. Sometimes he was the first to write down something people were already saying. Sometimes he turned a noun into a verb or added a prefix. So Shakespeare did a lot of things to the English language that was not happening before, and he gets accredited for a lot of things. If you look it up, you say, well, this says this number, and you're saying, Diane, you said 1700s. I'm telling you why, okay? Shut up. But the point stands. I've said 1,700 words, so here's a few. We got bedroom, Shakespeare. Lonely, Shakespeare. Generous, Shakespeare. Obscene, Shakespeare. Assassination is accredited to Shakespeare, but I'm going to get into the word assassination later on in the video because we don't colonize over here. We keep it where it is. But Shakespeare, assassination is accredited to Shakespeare. But anyway, eyeball, which people think he invented, actually appears in his writing in 1575, about 20 years before Shakespeare used it. But he's the one who popularized using it to mean the whole spherical eye. It was used beforehand, but it wasn't used for. He's the one who popularized it to use for the entire spherical eye, not just the visible surface. So, did you get up? You picking up what I'm putting down? If you took a spoon and scooped your eyeball out, eyeball. Shakespeare meant eyeball, not just eyeball. Whatever. I'm doing a lot of hand movements. Did exist before. But anyway, he took words people were saying, used them, he did. He took a lot of words people were already saying. He used the words that existed and he made them stick. And the people thought he was being ridiculous. That's a fun part to go back and look that up and read about what people were thinking about what Shakespeare was writing. We call him a genius. Some people were calling him crazy. They thought he was being ridiculous, using made up words, being pretentious. It's one of my favorite words. And then everyone started using them and now they're just words. So he made up a lot of words. People were like, this man's crazy. Nobody's going to say that. And then everybody just started saying it, so then it became a word. It's like, say, slang. Say it with me. Slang. Ebonics. People are like, that's not a language. Now, say something. Stay with me. Stick with me. We say Ebonics is the language. Some people say Ebonics is not a language, but technically it is. I'm not getting into that because if we go back and look up Shakespeare just making up words and people are using them and they actually understand the meaning of the words, Shakespeare was using Ebonics. Chapter 5. This is called The Great Vowel Shift and the Printing Press Disaster, because that's basically what it was. Now, between roughly the 1400s and the 1700s, that's where I'm putting it, the English speakers across the country started changing the way they pronounced vowels. Nobody organized this, nobody announced it, it just happened over 300 years, meaning Bologna, whatever. The long vowel shifted up the mouth, so bite used to be beat. Stay with me because you're going to be mad just like I was. Bite, B-I-T-E, used to be beat. B-E-E-T. House used to be pronounced house. House. H-O-O-S-E. House, H-O-U-S-E, used to be pronounced hoose. Hoose. Just name, N-A-M-E, used to be pronounced nam. Nam? I don't think I'm saying that right. I've tried it so many times. I've looked it up. Nam. N-A-H-M-E. Those are all spelt differently and spoken differently. English is a mess. Now, what we say, linguists called this the Great Vowel Shift. They still don't fully agree on why it happened. They don't. Now here's where it becomes a problem. The printing press arrived in England in 1476. It's standardized spelling. If you don't know, another one I found out, Shakespeare used to spell his names many different ways. And he didn't stick to one spelling. He spelled his name 6 different ways. Don't nobody tell you you can't be great. That's all I'm going to say. So it's standardized spelling. And for the first time, words had to be spelled consistently because you were printing thousands of copies. So no longer were the days of figuring it out. Spell it this. No. Shakespeare stopped writing your name 6 ways. Give me one that will stick. Why he picked the longest one too to put in stone. Matter of fact, you could have spelled it shorter. Shackspear. Did I say that right? Spear. Don't matter. He spelled it a bunch of different ways. We're gonna keep going. But the vowels were still shifting. The pronunciation was still changing, and the printing press froze spelling mid-shift. Remember, now we're going back to Shakespeare. When I say he made up 1,700 words, some people give him more, some people give him less. We're giving him 17. We're sticking to the middle, right? 1,700. The printing press came there, not here. 1476. Shakespeare's still writing crap and just writing new words. We have to figure out how to, they're like, all right, Shakespeare wasn't following the rules. So printing froze how we started spelling and saying things like mid-shift. I don't know how else to put it, but mid-shift, because we're starting to change our vowels. The spelling of words should have been changed with it, but it didn't. They stuck with what they had, and then they started pronouncing it different. So we ended up with words spelled the old way, but pronounced the new way, and we never fixed it. And I think in English today, still to this day, that pisses me off the most. You tell people who can't spell certain words in English, they're like, why can't you spell that? It's not even pronounced the correct way or spelled the way it used to be spelled for it to make sense. It's none of it's there. It's all just in chaos, and we're just living in it. You get words like night, which one you think I'm talking about? You're like, N-I-G-H-T, no. K-N-I-G-H-T, night. It used to be pronounced all with knish. Knish? K-N-I-C-H-T. We don't pronounce K the same way, so good luck with that one. Anyway, the K was pronounced hard K, and the G-H was like a throat sound. Now we say night, but we still write the K and the G-H because the spelling got froze before we could stop saying it the way that we used to say it, but they froze the spelling. And you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, and while we're here on that subject, you know how we have the C and the K and they often make the same sound. That wasn't always the case in Old English. C used to do double duty. Before we got certain vowels, it made a hard K sound. Before others, it would make the ch sound. And K existed because we barely used it. C was handling everything. We hardly never used the K back in the day. What they did. They never used the K back in the day. C was doing heavy lifting back then. And I feel like C doesn't get enough respect up in today's time for what it did back then. We're going to keep going. The Normans arrived with their French scribes plus Flemish and Burton soldiers who used the K heavily. So where did the K get a strong presence in English now? It's because of them French and the Flemish. Them Flemish folks. And so suddenly English had 3 different ways to pronounce C, and nobody could keep track. So K started picking up the slack. I still give C its respects. You know what I'm saying? K just started just throwing them K's in there because the other people started using K. We're just all over the place now. Anyway, let me show you. The word king used to be spelled C-Y-N-G. They changed it to a K because people couldn't tell anymore how to pronounce the C because of the French. I blame the French. Anyway, there are still hundreds of words where C and K make where C makes a K sound. Where, cat, cup, call. Those are K's, not C's. Anyway, because we never fully cleaned it up, we just added K where things got confusing and left the rest alone. Nobody was doing a good job back in the day keeping up with the English language because it was already a mess when the French got there, and then they started adding extra stuff, throwing K's in there and extra letters, and nobody could keep up with anything, so nobody was writing nothing down. Then we got this print press, and then we got Shakespeare up here just making up words, and now we just in a whole kerfuffle. I don't know where that word comes from. I'm not done. We're going to keep going. One evasion, one alphabet confusion, still no resolution 1,500 years later. Then we got through, though, thought, tough, cough, all spelled similarly, and pronounced completely different because the spelling is in a fossil and the pronunciation kept evolving without it. I have full-fledged suggestion. Why don't we just, no, we got enough problems going on right now in the US in 2026. We don't need people saying, let's fix the spelling of words. Never mind. We're going to keep going. English spelling isn't random. It's recorded in how people used to speak, a record nobody updated. So now we just out here saying stuff. We technically are in English speakers in the US. I'm talking about us specific, and them Brits too. We just out here just saying stuff, just making noises and just putting letters on a piece of paper and be like, that sounds good. Not me, them. And I blame the French too. I'm going to keep going. Chapter 6, that English is stolen from everyone. We want to make it worse? We're going to make it worse. Here we go. Starting in the 1600s, we know what's starting to happen. What happened? Colonization. Those people who couldn't just sit down and be still, and now people that look like me speak English. Anyway, starting in the 1600s, English colonized the world. England colonized the world. And English, being a linguistics started taking words from every language it encountered. Some of you were saying, oh, I already knew this. You may not know all the words. I don't know all the words. I know some of the words. I'm going to give you some examples. From Hindu, they took jungle, shampoo, pajamas, bungalow. I love that word. Thug, loot. Thug is Hindu. I know the history of thug, no history of the word thug, and it's very interesting. Go look it up. I'll do a video on it later. Anyway, Arabic, alcohol, algebra, algorithm, coffee, cotton, sugar, assassin. Remember when I said about Shakespeare and assassination? He colonized it. That's why I say they give him the credit. It's most definitely Arabic. Anyway, from China, from the Chinese, they took tea, ketchup, typhoon. The Japanese, tsunami, emoji, karaoke, tycoon. From Africa, banana, jazz, zombie, yam, okra. From our indigenous brothers and sisters, the Native Americans, they took chocolate, tomato, avocado, and they love that word. Hurricane, canoe, and barbecue. I love the word barbecue, like barbecue. So what does this tell you? English doesn't borrow words. English follows other language down dark alleys, knocks them over the head, rifles through their pockets for loose vocabulary. Can you imagine that? That's what English does. See the Native American language walking down a dark alley just trying to get home. Here come English. Right upside the head. What you got? Barbecue. We're taking that word. The neighbor's like, I'm sorry, I didn't do it, but I feel the need to apologize. So, English is 3 languages plus a lot more dressed up in a trench coat, pretending to be one, and the trench coat is also stolen. Nothing English language is its own. To me, technically, still freaking German and Norse. Nordics. I say eggs a lot. Sky, window. What else did I say they had? Had a lot of words, but we're gonna keep going. Anyway, English is a thief. That's what it is. And a lot of people know it. So all of this gets rewound back to where I started with. Bologna. I'm saying Bologna right now. It comes from the city Bologna. That's an Italian pronunciation. 3 syllables. The lunch meat is named after the city. Bologna sausage comes from Bologna. Bologna reminds me of lasagna. Bologna, Italy. Traded in America, and somehow along the way, Americans do what they do best. Did exactly what the English always does. Took a foreign word, flattened it into something easier to say, and called it theirs. I put ours in my script, but they call it theirs. But so Bologna became Bologna. That's not lazy, it is to me. But the English, being English, it's the same thing that happens to the word kernel. And if you've been paying attention, I know I said a lot, if you've been paying attention, you know the word kernel is more than likely what? French, because of the K. Anyway, Colone, pronounced kernel, because we took the Italian spelling and the French pronunciation and just ran with it. That is why kernel in the US is spelt the way it is. And the same thing that happened to every word we inherited from every other language we touched, they touched, not me. I'm just here. You know what I'm saying? English is not a language that evolved in isolation over centuries. It's a language that was built in a blender, invaded, conquered, merged, stolen from, made up on the spot, and frozen mid-change. And somehow we all just speak it without knowing any of this. It's a mess. So, anyway, the bucket war video is somewhat ready, almost ready, halfway ready. I finally did finish some of that script after my 3-hour detour that became this video, and I absolutely regret nothing. So, until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, you didn't learn English, you just inherited a crime scene. See you later.